Program Manager at the Heinz History Center. I'm excited to welcome you to today's See and Do Family Gallery broadcast. Today, we're in the Pittsburgh: A Tradition of Innovation exhibit in the Heinz History Center. This exhibit explores stories of how Pittsburgh has changed and ways that Pittsburgh has changed the world. Because I'm in the exhibit while we're open to the public, I'm wearing a mask. So I'll try to speak clearly and slowly to make sure you can understand everything. If you have any questions along the way, please let us know in the chat and we'll try to answer them before our broadcast wraps up. Today, we're going to be talking about some early stories about radio in Pittsburgh, specifically KDKA Radio. Their first broadcast was 100 years ago today, or not today, sorry, 100 years ago this month, earlier this month. Broadcast radio was a new idea in the early 1900s. In those days, people didn't have the internet, cell phones, televisions, or computers. If you wanted to talk to someone who wasn't nearby, you'd have to write a letter, send a telegraph, or use one of Alexander Graham Bell's telephones that connected through a wire. Radio was special because it was wireless. You didn't have to connect to a cable, a cord, or a wire. All you needed was power. Radio let you learn more about other people from far away, and whenever you would tune in, and you could connect with people who were far away too. It wasn't just your hometown. Today, I'm broadcasting over the internet, but 100 years ago, when KDKA had their first commercial broadcast, we would have been using the radio to tell stories. People who were really interested in radio experimented in a lot of different ways. Some people used radio to talk using Morse code. Morse code is a way that people talk that uses dots and dashes instead of letters. So for example, in Morse code, the word dog is dash, dot, 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 dash, dot. So you would tap that out on the radio and people would hear the noises and understand what you're trying to say. Radio was also really important for ships. People would use the radio to talk to each other on other ships or on control centers on land. Radio became essential in rescuing passengers and sailors after the RMS Republic, a big ocean liner like the Titanic, collided with a smaller ship in 1909. Scientists, engineers, and inventors tried all sorts of ways to connect people in two different locations using radio. To help us understand some of those ways, I'm going to bring in Mr. Larry from SLB Radio Productions. Welcome, Larry.
Hello. It's nice to be here with you. Happy Radio Centennial. I'm glad folks are able to enjoy it. Radio, it's an amazing medium. To think that you could capture signals through the air, whether it be ship to ship, ship to shore, or eventually, as KDKA demonstrated, from a transmitter through the air to a receiver. It was simply magical to suddenly be able to hear voices. I brought along a very crude crystal radio kit that we actually built, and I'm going to try my best to show it to you. Forgive my clumsiness here, but here's a crystal radio kit that actually used this as a way of varying the capacitance, and then a wound coil that you would put a connector across to be able to actually pick up a radio station. And the thing about these crystal radio kits, as I put this one aside, is they required no power. So a lot of hobbyists and soldiers would build a crystal radio kit, or sometimes for soldiers, they were kits that you could actually, field kits that you could use. And in using one of those kits, might look like this. You'd put things on a piece of wood. You could actually pick up a radio station in an earphone with no power whatsoever. And the cool thing, it would be hard for us to build such a kit live on YouTube right now, but we'll include in the comments a link to a video that brilliantly describes how you can make this kind of radio at home using some wire, a toilet paper tube, and a few other things. And a little tip, it may advise you to solder, but you could just use alligator clips to connect things if you don't want to go to the trouble of soldering just to experiment.
That sounds really fun, Larry. I hope that people can give that a try after we're finished with our broadcast today. Just like our technology today, radio technology continued to grow, and its potential caught the attention of a lot of different people. One of those people was a man named Frank Conrad. Frank was an engineer at Westinghouse who made a studio in his garage in Wilkinsburg, just outside of Pittsburgh. Frank played records over the airwaves in his free time so that people could listen to popular music, and they would use their homemade receivers, kind of like what Larry talked about, to listen to it. Frank's music show became so popular that people put in requests for songs they wanted to hear. Radio enthusiasts tuned in from far away as New England, so he had a really big reach. Eventually, Frank's boss, Harry Davis, learned about his radio show. Since it was so popular, Harry thought it might be a good way to sell more Westinghouse radio receivers so people could tune in and listen. Harry was also interested in radio as a way for Westinghouse manufacturing plants to talk to each other without having to pay for expensive wires for telephones. The Westinghouse team applied for a commercial radio license from the U.S. Department of Commerce, who was in charge of radio technology at that time. They were given the call letters KDKA, which are still used today. Right behind me is a replica of the original radio transmitter, which is what KDKA used to send out their first ever broadcast. It has some of the original parts, which is pretty awesome. So you can see it right here. It's this big black box. We are borrowing it from the Smithsonian's National Museum of American History. You can also see a picture in the back behind the big black box of a reenactment of the very first of KDKA broadcast. So that's what everything looked like in the early days. And it's pretty cool to see all the different technology that people used. So Mr. Larry, what do you want to tell us next about radio?
Well, early on, as you just heard Mr. Nate talk about, you would hear newspaper or news, such as election results. The Harding-Cox election is what is known as KDKA's first regularly scheduled broadcast. You might hear music, but one of the things that excites me and a lot of other folks was radio began to be used to present drama. And I thought there's a reason why radio was so good for this purpose. But I have a little vignette here that I thought we'd enjoy. It's a few minutes. This is from a program of fiction, but it's based very much on fact. It's called Remember When, a play on words. When was the radio station WENN, which I don't know if you could say it was exactly like KDKA, but it was a radio station set in Pittsburgh. And the woman you see on the right of the screen thinks she has a job at this station because she won a contest. The man on the left is the manager of the station. But what I really want you to hear is how he describes the power of this brand new medium. This is a conversation that would have taken place in the late 30s, early 40s.
Would you be able to advance me something against my first week's salary? Very embarrassing.
Miss Roberts,
Your internship is a non-paying job.
But I won your contest. My sample script was in every way a professional...
Really? Well, let's take a look at that. Read a passage from it, shall we? There we are. It's not the malaria that has me shaking, you adorable fool. No, excuse me. She looks at him with silent devotion, her eyes saying what her lips cannot. He reaches toward her, brushing the tears from her cheek, pulling her toward him quietly, yet forcefully. They embrace with unspoken passion. She smiles up at him as the two, wordlessly, begin their slow descent from the mountaintop. Memorable.
Thank you.
What you have just described is 45 seconds of silence. By now, most of our listeners would have either tuned to another station or left to have their ears de-waxed.
Mr. Comstock, I realize this is a unique opportunity.
Unique? It is inestimable. Do you have any idea what our competition provides their listening public with? This is what our competition plays from sunup until sundown.
Camptown races?
Records. They play records. The same records you could play on your gramophone at home. And this is what we give our audience.
In my way.
Captain Amazon, I don't think I can hold off these zombie warriors any longer.
You have to, Kippy. The free world is counting on us.
Now, tell me, what did Captain Amazon look like?
Oh, sort of Flash Gordon. Steely blue eyes, flowing blonde hair.
Nicky, if we can hold them back until the sun rises, they'll be destroyed. They're nothing but a bunch of cowards anyway.
That's funny. I was listening to the same program, and I thought the hero looked a lot like me. And therein lies the magic. Tens of thousands of people out there listening, each envisioning their own motion picture of the mind. And that is what we give our audience, Miss Roberts. We give them dreams. We give them towers and landscapes, secrets and revelations. We give them a warm hearth in the dark or a cold shiver up their spine. And we do it all here, live, on the sparest of threadbare budgets, with a troupe of actors who, underpaid and under-rehearsed and overwhelmed, have yet to learn that this simply cannot be done. Miss Roberts, you are standing in the wings of the most unbounded stage in creation. Say you'll join our company.
And there you have a sense of how excited people were about this new medium. And it's one of the reasons it's lasted so long. Every individual person listening to the radio has to make his, her, or their own picture as they listen. So, Nate, if you're listening and I'm listening, we are going to hear things differently and imagine things differently. And when a really good broadcaster is in the studio, we're going to feel like that person is talking only to us and develop a relationship with that person. So at this era of radio, and I'll mention just one more thing about it, this era lasted a long time, and a lot of it was all based in drama. And you can easily go online. This is a link, and it's something fun for families to take a look at. Old-time radio scripts. And you could go through and choose a script and act it out just for fun as a radio play. You're going to want to read it first and be sure you've chosen a good one. But one I really like is Dragnet, the police program. And I can bring up an episode. That one's a little hard to read, but it's an original script with all the characters, and you can act it out and have fun with it. And we'll make sure you have the link for that, but I'll give it to you now too. It's OTRR, Old Time Radio Research is the other R, OTRR.org.
Great. That sounds like it would be a lot of fun to do. I hope that everyone has a chance to explore some old radio plays because it really does show all of the magic that can happen with radio whenever you get to work with your imagination and someone else tries to bring it to life. Mr. Larry mentioned that KDKA's first broadcast was part of a presidential election. It specifically was on Tuesday, November 2nd, 1920. KDKA worked with local newspaper reporters to present the results of the presidential election that took place that day. Frank Conrad was all set up in his garage studio to step in if he needed to, but KDKA's technology worked like they had hoped. One newspaper said that the broadcast sounded exceptionally clear, which is great. That's exactly what you want for your big debut. KDKA and Westinghouse needed to build on that success and designed radios that people could have at home, like the Areola. So right behind me on the table is an Areola Junior, and that cost about $25 in the 1920s. So it was fairly expensive, but they were really popular. Within 5 years, 5 million radios had been sold. Radio had arrived in a big way. Something else that KDKA knew was that they needed a regular schedule of shows for people to listen. And they built their own recording studio too. So KDKA had programs that focused on sports, politics, religion, music, and theater. They also put together a band of Westinghouse employees who performed popular music of the day. KDKA also knew they had to let people know when their programs were taking place. So they put in a lot of ads in local newspapers to make sure people knew about it. KDKA had a lot of fun firsts, like having the first broadcast of a baseball game. Harold Arlen called a Pirates game against the Philadelphia Phillies on August 1st, 1921. Harold used a telephone that he modified to work as a microphone, and he announced the game from a ground level box seat. The Pirates won the game 8-5, which is even better. So KDKA had a lot of firsts, and they were pioneers in a lot of ways for radio. And like Mr. Larry has said before, there's a lot of really cool things you can do with radio, things that let you imagine things in your mind's eye, that get your creativity flowing. So Mr. Larry, what else do you want to share with us?
Well, something else about radio, and it's still true to this day, is, especially then, but it's still true today, is the regularity. Just like you mentioned, the schedule. You expect certain things to happen at certain times on the radio. You expect programs to come on. You expect the news at the top of the hour. And what I wanted to share with you is a very special recording of a gentleman named Slim Bryant. Slim Bryant and the Wildcats were rock stars of KDKA in the 40s and beyond. They were a house band of country western musicians led by Slim that played during a morning farm show. And I have Slim in his own words. Slim lived he died at the age of 101 back in 2010. And we are fortunate to have an interview with him that was recorded before his 100th birthday, as he was approaching his 100th birthday. So here he is talking a little bit about how he came to Pittsburgh.
My brother, he was coming to Zelienople because his wife was from Zelienople, and I went to Atlanta on a vacation. And when he went into KDKA, my brother did, because we had worked there before, and then the program director, he said to my brother, he said, "Boy, we could sure use you guys around here now. We need you. Where are you playing?" And he told him, he said, "When you want us to start?" He said, "Anytime you can get here." So he called me in Atlanta, and we set the date up. The first, I think it was the first Monday in August 1940. And so we came and started here then.
And we've had a lot of emails and phone calls throughout the morning and that's me talking with him. But what did they do? What was their MO. What were they asked to do? And here now you can hear Slim describing what that show sounded like.
Holman March, as I said before, he was a farm director, gave out all the prizes and the interviews and all that stuff. And we just furnished the music and gave the time signals. And the show was very well put together because just like we did a hymn every morning at 6:23, and you can set your watch by that. You know, that was the way it was. And while Homer would be doing interviews with these different people, we'd go outside and listen to them and try to guess by their accent where they was from. And they had one guy on there one day, and we went out and listened to him, and he said to Homer, Homer said, well, what do you like about Western Pennsylvania, this guy? He asked him that. He said, well, one thing I like are your postures. And Homer said, our postures? He said, yeah, you got lots of acres to graze your cattle in. He was from Australia, this guy was.
So that gives you a sense of what they would do. You listen to radio today and you might hear people bantering about and having fun on a morning show. That's what Slim Bryant and the Wildcats did. These things that you hear on the radio have deep, deep roots.
Yeah, that was a really interesting interview. Thanks for sharing with us, Larry. I have another question for you, Larry. What are some other things that SLB radio does?
Well, we still believe in radio. It's in our name. Obviously, we have the capability of using pictures too, but we do that mostly to demonstrate our work. You know, to really any person, but especially to children and youth, if we can help show that your voice matters, it's a demonstration that you matter and that you have the power to communicate, persuade, offer change, be creative. So a lot of our work involves using the tools of radio, bringing microphones, digital recorders, mixers, headphones, and other gear to schools or groups of students, or having them come here to our studios and developing ways for kids to get a chance at doing that. Sometimes it's as simple as answering a sentence about what you like to do and what you enjoy doing. Sometimes it's a radio documentary where you go and interview people about a particular issue, and then you end up creating a piece of media that can help inform other people about an issue that you're passionate about. Another big area for us is oral history, where we will have youth go out and talk to elders about their life so that we can document what their life is like, but also what Pittsburgh and the environment is like. We've collected over 300 oral histories with youth at the steering wheel, picking the questions and eliciting the answers. We like doing it that way because youth ask the greatest questions and the adults are very willing to share their thoughts with fresh ears that have never heard these stories before. Finally, we do live radio. I'm in our studio right now. Let me see if I can pick up our control board to prove it. There it is. I have it out of the picture a little bit. We broadcast from here. This is a full radio station, completely digital every Saturday morning. Our flagship program, the Saturday Light Brigade, airs from 6 to noon at 88.3 FM and 6 other radio stations throughout the region. SLBradio.org is where you can find all of those. And that's still a big, despite podcasts, which we do, and all of those other activities, radio is still a great equalizer. Everybody can step in and listen and add and enjoy.
Larry, it was great to have you today. I'm so glad that we could work with you. I've known SLB Radio for a while now, especially through some of the work they've done with Summer Dreamers Academy with Pittsburgh Public Schools. And it's just great to have you on today so we can talk a little bit more about radio history.
It's such a pleasure. And, I'd be remiss, two things. I'm always tacking on these things I forget to say. First of all, some of the activities I mentioned, if you're a parent watching with your kids or a teacher, radio is a great way to sharpen literacy skills, speaking, reading, writing, listening, and others too, but they're all embedded in what we do, and it's a fun way to do so. And second, I want to pass along our thanks to the History Center. We love working with you guys. Pittsburgh is really fortunate to have a Smithsonian-affiliated museum, as well as folks that are really making sure our heritage is maintained and made available. And Nate, I'm just glad we're able to be a small part of the celebration today.
Yeah, well, thanks again for joining us. And thanks for everyone for watching now. We'll be adding in some more links to the YouTube link description so we can share out some of the things that Larry shared with us today. And I hope that everyone enjoyed our broadcast and hope that you'll tune in for a future C&D Family Gallery broadcast live from the History Center. Thanks.
Thanks. See you on the radio.